You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something.
Welcome back to How to 20-something, where today I'll be talking to you about the subject of quitting versus running away and how you can learn to tell them apart. Because on the surface, they look the same. You've decided to stop something and not see it through to the end. So the difference lies beneath the surface. You see, there are going to be times in your life where you want to quit something. A relationship, a job, school, some kind of long-term commitment that when it starts to become a challenge or isn't as easy as you thought or hoped it was going to be, you get this itch to quit. And sometimes some circumstances call for you to do just that. Quit. Leave. Full stop. Where it is healthier for you to leave. But other times, you're actually better off in the long term by sticking it out. And that this form of quitting is actually you running away. I already made a whole episode on why quitters sometimes win. It was episode 102 if you want to go back and re-listen to that one after you're done with this one. But this episode is different. In that episode, I helped you reframe quitting as a good thing. This one is about something harder. It's figuring out which kind of quitting you're doing. Because there are two kinds. There's quitting that's empowering and strategic. And there's quitting that's running away. Like I said, from the outside, they look identical. You're leaving, you're done. It's the end. So the difference isn't the act of quitting, it's why. It's tricky because they feel exactly the same. Both give you immediate relief. Both feel like the right call. Both consist of being done with something. So how do you know which one you're actually doing? Because it can be really easy to convince yourself that you're not running away and you are strategically quitting. But you and I both know that that's not always going to be the case. At the end of the day, the choice to give up or not in the form of running away boils down to choosing your heart. It's either suffer now and reap the reward later, or give up now and suffer later from this decision. Now, I am in no way saying that you have to struggle through every hardship you ever encounter, otherwise you'll definitely suffer later, because there are for sure circumstances that will come up where giving up is the better choice for you. Which is why I say telling the difference between quitting and running away is tricky. It's the long-term consequences that determine if you're quitting for your benefit or simply choosing to run from life's difficulties. And I'm going to break down how you can tell the difference now versus regret your decisions and tell the difference later. But it's learning to put yourself in future you's shoes. How will this decision impact the future version of you? Not the tomorrow you, because that version will still feel the relief. It's the version of you 6 months to several years down the line. The relief you feel right now doesn't necessarily mean you made the right decision. The relief is solely because the hard thing stopped. The friction is gone. The real indicator comes from what's next. Does life open up for you? Or is the same problem going to show up in a different fashion? For example, I have a client who is in college and isn't great at school and has essentially fed himself a narrative that if the semester isn't perfect, then he has no shot at passing his classes. So when he had a rough start to his semester in the spring, he decided this imperfection of unforeseen circumstances has determined his fate for the rest of this semester. And we had a lot of good conversations around what was really going on, and one of the things I brought up to him was that only 20% of the semester has taken its course, meaning he has the remaining 80% to turn it around. I'm not saying it'll be easy, but I am saying that it is possible. He just has to be willing to put in the work. This is the same client that I spoke about in last week's episode because all of this is unfolding at the time of me planning these episodes, and they're inspiring some really good topics. So this client ended up withdrawing from his classes after his mom stepped in and gave him that option. Now, I'm not his mother. I'm his coach. So all I can do is push him to what I know he's capable of. And when he doesn't want to do that, then I have to shift into, okay, so what's the next plan going to be? And then help him come up with a strategy so he doesn't end up regretting this decision. But for the sake of this episode, if he wasn't actively working with me to come up with what's next, I do believe he ran away from his problems. And future him isn't going to have these classes completed and is going to feel even further behind in his college career, potentially dissuading him from returning to school at all. Not that you have to go to school for a good future, since we all know that's not guaranteed, but there's deeper lessons in running away. He didn't quit because staying was truly the wrong call. He quit because staying was hard and uncomfortable and uncertain and required work. Running away doesn't make the thing disappear. It just delays it. There are going to be times in your life where you don't want to persevere through. But in those moments, it's best to admit to yourself that you are running away and you're okay with this decision and any repercussions that could follow. You're an adult. You have the power of choice for the first time in your life, and that's a lot of power to have and can feel really scary at times because you don't want to totally fuck over your future. So the best thing you can do is what I help my clients do for themselves, and it's create the plan around this decision. This comes in the form of, if not this, then what? If not school, then how are you going to advance your career? If not this job, do you have money saved up to carry you for a year until you land your next one? If not this relationship, what happens when you have a similar experience with someone new? If not taking care of yourself with eating right and working out, then do you have someone who can take care of you when your health starts to fail you? I get that some of these future scenarios feel very far away. I also get that in some circumstances, you do have the choice to go back. Like go back to school or go back to working out and eating healthy. And in your 20s, time is on your side. But time won't always be there. And running away from your problems gets exhausting because you're not actually dealing with the root difficulty, which means it'll just keep resurfacing. A tactic I like to use when it comes to the decision to quit something, and not in the form of running away, is by asking myself this question. Did I try my hardest to fix what was in my control? And if the answer is yes, then I have myself sit or go on an unplugged walk with the decision to leave and let my body feel into the outcomes. What else becomes possible now? Because right now, your decision to quit is coming from a place of heightened emotion and stress where all you want is for it to go away and stop. But that's not going to teach you anything. You need to learn how to calm your system down so your logical brain can come back online and you can shift into strategizing mode. The biggest difference to decide if you're running away or strategically quitting is when you decide to quit with nothing else lined up. That's what this client did. He didn't have anything lined up in place of school. When I quit F45 last year, I knew I wasn't running away because 1, I stood up to the owners and voiced my needs in a very professional way. 2, it was becoming more time-consuming and stressful for what was supposed to be a turn-your-brain-off kind of job. And 3, I had the plan to fill the space of F45 with other business endeavors. The decision to quit didn't just bring me relief, it brought peace. And that peace stuck with me a full year later. I know I tried my hardest and did what was in my control, and they disrespected me so much, it just wasn't worth the time and effort anymore. A good quit feels grounded, even when it's scary. A run feels frantic, even when it feels like relief. But if the only reason you're leaving is to stop feeling uncomfortable, then I advise you to sit with the discomfort and think of your future self before deciding to pull the trigger. And sitting with it doesn't mean 1 hour. I'm talking a full week at minimum of truly giving something your all, so you can confidently say you tried your hardest to make it work, and then walk away. Not run, walk. I will say, the urgency to quit as a form of avoiding the hard stuff comes in 2 different directions. There's the more obvious one that has been the bulk of this episode. Just want it to stop. You're running away from your problems instead of facing them, which means they will present themselves again to you in the future if you don't learn how to deal with them head on right now. But then there's the other side of this conversation, where you want to quit as a way to skip a few chapters ahead. I experienced this when I knew I was strategically quitting my full-time job to move to Charlotte and become self-employed in March of 2022. But in November of 2021, I was ready to quit my job and really went back and forth for a while on that decision. The reason I wanted to quit was because I was so excited about starting my own business, having my time be my own, and seeing where this new path would take me. I wanted to skip time and be there already. And this job had no carryover to my next chapter. But there were 2 reasons as to why I didn't quit in November. One was my roommate had just quit her job, so we would both be home all the time together, and I knew that would not go over very well for me. The other reason was I had a financial goal that I hadn't reached yet and needed those extra 5 months to hit it, because I was in the middle of strategically quitting, which came with a plan. Sometimes we think we're delaying the inevitable from happening by staying somewhere and quote-unquote sticking it out, but staying helps you transition into what's next so much easier. For example, this client of mine, part of why he wants to quit school is because he said he's delaying the what's next question by staying. And I challenged him with 2 different points. The first one is there's always going to be a what's next question looming over your head for the rest of your life. What's the next job? Who's the next girlfriend? Where's the next city? It's always going to be there. So, yes, by staying in school, you are delaying the figuring out what comes after school part, which I know people do as a way to avoid the adult world, just fill their time with more school and more learning, since that's what they know. But this client was a sophomore, so he wasn't delaying what's next with more school. Which brought me to my second point of why rush? You have the rest of your adult life to be an adult. Why are you rushing to jump into a full-time job right now? You've been gifted the opportunity to go away to college and learn a lot about yourself and your interests, and you'll have several decades to answer what's next. Sometimes we get so antsy about our future that we want to stop what we're doing right now so we can start on the next chapter. What I'm telling you is to finish what you started and set yourself up for what's next. Like how I have another client who has decided traditional college is not for her, but her plan is to finish the semester well and start cosmetology school in the fall. She's quitting college, but knows what's next. That's quitting in a healthy way and not quitting and running away. Both clients are in college. Both are not strong in school. But one gave up without trying, and one started planning, if not this, then what? So if I were to break down this spectrum for you based off of everything I've said so far and the examples I've given, you fall under the healthy level of quitting when you've strategically planned your exit. You've gathered data, weighed the cost, and planned what's next. You fall under the healthy level of quitting when staying goes against your values. Circumstances have changed and what's happening does not coincide with who you are. And you fall under the avoidance side of quitting when things got hard and you took it as a sign to stop. Or when you quit before you can fail from an ego perspective. You leave on your own terms. That protects your abilities. Like leaving a relationship before it gets too serious because you'd hate for someone to leave after they got to know the real you and decided they no longer liked what they saw. Or even leaving a relationship at the sign of a first fight because you don't want to push through it and have it fail later on anyways. And then tell yourself, I told you so. dating back to that first fight that you guys ever had. So, as I wrap up this episode, I want to finish on one last tip for you to take with you when it comes to deciding if you're strategically quitting or running away. The next time you're itching to leave a situation, honestly ask yourself, are you walking away or running? Because one of those is a decision and the other is a reaction. And you need to be able to tell the difference for yourself. The honest, ugly truth about yourself. Your people are going to support you no matter what. Your parents, your friends, your coach, your therapist, and it's always going to feel like the right decision in the moment. But it's not always going to be the right decision in the long term, and only you will live with those consequences if you do not take the time to think this decision all the way through. And of course, if you need help figuring your own shit out, then that's what I'm here for. You can always click the Let's Chat link in the show notes, and I'd be happy to coach you through the challenges you're currently facing of the should I stay or should I go challenge. But this does conclude this episode of How to 20-something. If you liked what you heard, agree or disagree with what I said, or know someone who runs from their problems, then please share this episode, post it on social media, send it to a friend. Just do something to help me help all of the 20-somethings navigating the most confusing decade of their lives. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.